dust hadn't settled from the final bronc ride when Mercy Hartwell realized her stepfather had actually done it. He'd wagered her, put her up as a prize in the most brutal rodeo competition Copper Ridge had ever seen. 23 years old, standing in a torn calico dress behind the livestock pens, she watched hardened cowboys eye her like she was another head of cattle to be claimed. The winner, a man called Viper Jack, known for breaking horses and women with equal cruelty, was already making his way toward her, his smile revealing tobacco-stained teeth. Her fingers clutched the silver locket at her throat, the only thing left from her mother. Maybe she could trade it, run, disappear into the Wyoming wilderness before Viper Jack's meaty hands reached her. The late afternoon sun beat down mercilessly as panic clawed at her chest. Before I continue with Mercy's story, I want to pause for just a moment. If you're enjoying this tale from the Wild West, please take a second to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Your support truly means everything to us and motivates us to bring you more quality stories like this one. I'd also love to know, where are you listening from right now? Now, let's get back to Mercy's desperate moment. "That locket won't buy you nothing out here, miss." The voice came from behind her, deep and steady as bedrock. "But it'll buy you a memory of someone who loved you. Keep it." Mercy spun around. The man stood at least 6'4", his shoulders broad enough to block the sun-darkened skin stretched over muscles that spoke of years breaking wild horses and harder men. His black hat, shadowed eyes the color of storm clouds, and a scar ran from his left temple to his jaw. But it was his hands she noticed first, calloused, strong, yet held with surprising gentleness at his sides. "You're Isaiah Crow," she breathed. Everyone in 3 territories knew his name. Part Cheyenne, part Irish, holy legend. They said he could gentle a horse no other man could touch, that he'd ridden with both cavalry and warriors, belonged to neither, that he'd disappeared into the mountains 5 years ago after his wife died in childbirth. "I am..." His gaze moved past her to where Viper Jack was shouting at the rodeo organizers. "And you're about to belong to a man who'll break you, same as he breaks horses, violently." "I know," her voice cracked. "My stepfather gambled away everything else, the ranch, the livestock. I was all he had left to wager." Isaiah's jaw tightened. A man who treats his daughter like property ain't a man at all. He pulled a thick roll of bills from his vest pocket. "How much did Viper Jack put up to enter this competition?" $500. "Why?" "Because I'm about to make your stepfather an offer." He started walking toward the announcer's platform, his stride purposeful. Mercy hurried after him, her heart hammering. "Wait! You can't! You don't even know me!" Isaiah stopped, turned, and for the first time, she saw something flicker in those storm-gray eyes. Recognition. "No, miss, I don't. But I know Viper Jack, and I know what the mountain winter does to a woman alone. I got a ranch needs working. You got skills? I can cook, clean, mend, garden. I can shoot straight, and I'm not afraid of hard work. Then here's the deal. I give your stepfather $1,000, double what Viper Jack put up. You come work my ranch for 6 months. After that, you're free to leave with wages saved. Or stay. Your choice. Always your choice." "Why would you do this for a stranger?" Isaiah's scarred face softened almost imperceptibly. "Because 5 years ago, someone should have done it for my Sarah. And nobody did." Before Mercy could respond, he strode onto the platform where her stepfather stood counting Viper Jack's entrance money. The conversation was brief, heated, and ended with Isaiah throwing down a stack of bills that silenced every objection. Viper Jack lunged forward, but Isaiah's hand dropped to the Colt at his hip with such casual menace that even the cruel cowboy stepped back. "The lady's coming with me," Isaiah announced to the crowd. "Anyone got objections? Speak now or forever hold your peace." Silence. Even Viper Jack knew better than to challenge Isaiah Crow's reputation. An hour later, Mercy sat beside Isaiah on a wagon heading into the mountain country. The sun painted the peaks gold and crimson as they climbed higher. She clutched her small bundle of possessions, 2 dresses, her mother's locket, and a Bible with pressed flowers marking Psalms. "Your ranch," she finally said. "Is it far?" 3 hours northeast, Eagle Creek Valley. Got good water, decent grazing. 100 head of horses, most half-wild." He glanced at her. "House needs a woman's touch. Hasn't had one since Sarah passed. I'm sorry for your loss." His hands tightened on the reins. 5 years gone. And some days it feels like yesterday. Other days. He trailed off, jaw working. Other days I can't remember her face clear anymore. That's worse somehow. They rode in silence as twilight descended. Mercy studied him from the corner of her eye. His profile was harsh, carved by weather and grief. But there was something solid about him, something that made her feel, for the first time in months, like maybe she could breathe without fear. "Why didn't you marry again?" she asked quietly. "Surely women would." "Would what? Line up for a half-breed who talks to horses better than people? Who lives so far from civilization we don't see another soul for weeks?" He shook his head. "I made Sarah a promise, that she'd be my last, that I'd never let another woman into my heart where she could get hurt by my way of living. That's a lonely promise. It's an honest one." Full dark had fallen when they reached his ranch. The main house stood sturdy and square, built from lodgepole pine, with a wide porch facing the valley. Corrals stretched out behind it, and Mercy could hear horses moving in the darkness, their soft wickers carrying on the night wind. Isaiah helped her down from the wagon, his hands at her waist, strong and sure. For a moment they stood close, and she caught the scent of leather and sage smoke. Then he stepped back abruptly. "Kitchen's stocked. Bedroom upstairs is yours. I sleep in the tack room by the barn." He grabbed her bundle and carried it to the porch. "Bolt the door. You're safe here." "Isaiah." He turned back. "Thank you for not letting Viper Jack, for giving me a choice." Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the stone facade. "Choice is the only thing that matters out here, Mercy. Don't ever forget that." He disappeared into the darkness, leaving her standing in the doorway of a house that smelled like dust and old grief. Mercy lit a lamp and explored. The kitchen was functional but bare. Tin plates, cast iron pots, nothing decorative. The bedroom upstairs held a sturdy bed with clean quilts and a window overlooking the corrals. She lay awake that first night, listening to coyotes sing in the distance and wondering what she'd agreed to. 6 months with a man who talked to horses and kept his dead wife's memory like a wall between himself and the living. Dawn came cold and clear. Mercy woke to the sound of Isaiah working with horses in the main corral. She dressed quickly and went downstairs to start breakfast. Coffee first, then bacon and eggs, biscuits from the sourdough starter she found in the cold box. She worked efficiently, muscle memory from years of feeding her stepfather and his ranch hands taking over. Isaiah appeared in the doorway just as she was plating the food. His shirt was already damp with sweat, despite the morning chill, and there was a fresh cut across his forearm. "You're hurt," she said immediately. Colt got feisty. Nothing serious. But he let her lead him to the kitchen table, let her clean the wound with hot water and whiskey, let her bandage it with strips torn from an old sheet. His forearm was corded with muscle, marked with old scars. She tried not to notice how her hands trembled slightly as she worked. "You're gentle," he said quietly. Sarah was too. She could calm a spooked horse just by touching it. Mercy met his eyes. "I'm not trying to replace her." "I know. But it's been so long since—" He pulled his arm away, stood abruptly. "Breakfast smells good, thank you." They fell into a routine. Mercy rose before dawn to cook breakfast, packed lunches for the long days Isaiah spent working horses. She cleaned the house, finding Sarah's things carefully stored in trunks. Dresses, books, a baby's unfinished cradle that made her heart ache. She didn't disturb them. Instead, she planted a garden, mended fences, learned to milk the cow Isaiah kept for fresh butter. In the evenings, he taught her to ride, started with a gentle mare named Patience, showed her how to sit the saddle, how to move with the horse rather than against it. His hands on her waist to adjust her position sent heat through her body that had nothing to do with the summer sun. "Loosen your grip," he murmured, standing close beside Patience. "Horse can feel your fear. Breathe slow. Show her you trust her." Mercy did as he instructed, and felt the mare relax beneath her. Like that? Just like that. His rare smile appeared, transforming his harsh features. "You're a natural." Weeks passed. Mercy grew stronger, sun-browned, capable. She could shoot a rabbit for dinner, track a straying horse, read weather in the clouds. Isaiah slowly opened up during their evening meals, telling stories about his childhood, his Irish father who'd married a Cheyenne woman, the years he'd spent learning both worlds, fitting into neither. "Sarah saw past all that," he said one night, staring into his coffee. "Her father was a preacher in Salt Lake. Everyone said she was crazy for marrying a half-breed horse tamer. But she didn't care. She said love didn't see color or tribe, just saw souls. She sounds remarkable." She was. He looked up, and something in his expression made Mercy's breath catch. "You would have liked each other." One afternoon in early August, Mercy was hanging laundry when she heard Isaiah shouting. She ran to the corral and found him inside with a massive black stallion. The horse was wild-eyed, foam flecking its mouth, and as she watched, it charged. Isaiah moved like water, avoiding the hooves, but the stallion wheeled and kicked out. One hoof caught Isaiah's ribs, sent him sprawling in the dust. Mercy didn't think. She grabbed the rifle from the porch and fired into the air. The sharp crack made the stallion rear and bolt to the far corner. She climbed into the corral, positioned herself between Isaiah and the horse. "Get out," Isaiah gasped, struggling to sit up. "Mercy, that horse'll kill you." "Not if you teach me what to do." She kept her eyes on the stallion, her voice steady despite her hammering heart. "Tell me how to gentle him." "Go slow," Isaiah said through gritted teeth. "It hurts when you rush a wild thing. Patience. Always patience." Mercy took one step forward. The stallion snorted, stamped. She held out her hand, palm down, and started humming. An old hymn her mother used to sing. Another step. The stallion's ears flicked forward, listening. "That's it," Isaiah breathed behind her. "Let him come to you." It took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of Mercy standing still as stone, humming that hymn, letting the stallion decide. Finally, he stretched his neck toward her, nostrils flaring. She let him smell her hand, then slowly, carefully touched his nose. "Good boy," she whispered. "Nobody's going to hurt you here." When she finally turned around, Isaiah was standing, one hand pressed to his ribs, looking at her like he'd never seen her before. "You could have been killed," he said roughly. "So could you." She walked over, made him lift his shirt. The bruise was already blooming across his ribs, purple-black. "Inside, now, you need wrapping." In the kitchen, she made him sit while she wrapped his torso with torn sheets, pulling them tight enough to support the cracked ribs. Her hands on his bare skin felt intimate, electric. She could feel his heart beating under her palms, fast and hard. Mercy. His hand caught hers, held it against his chest. "You can't go risking yourself like that. If something happened to you." "What?" She looked up at him, suddenly bold. "Would you care, Isaiah, or would you just find another woman to cook and clean for 6 months?" His gray eyes darkened. "I'd die before I let anything hurt you. That's the problem." "Why is that a problem?" "Because I promised Sarah." His voice broke. "I promised her she'd be the last woman I loved. That I'd never let anyone else in where they could get destroyed by this life, by me." Mercy cupped his scarred face with both hands, made him look at her. "Maybe Sarah didn't want you to die alone. Maybe she wanted you to find someone who could love this life, love you the way she did." "I can't." But he didn't pull away. "I can't bury another wife." "Then don't." Her lips were inches from his. "Don't bury me. Build with me. Together." Isaiah made a sound low in his throat and kissed her. It was gentle at first, questioning, but when she responded, pressing closer despite his injured ribs, it deepened into something hungry. His hands tangled in her hair, and she could feel 5 years of loneliness breaking apart between them. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "6 months," he said hoarsely. "You were supposed to have a choice after 6 months. I'm choosing now." She kissed him again, softer. "I'm choosing you, Isaiah Crow, if you'll have me." "If I'll?" He laughed, the sound rusty but real. "Mercy, I haven't been able to think about anything but you for weeks. The way you move through my house like you belong there. The way you gentle horses. The way you made me remember that being alive means feeling things, even when it hurts." "Then we'll feel things together," she whispered. "The good and the bad. We'll make our own promises." That night, they sat on the porch, watching stars wheel overhead. Isaiah told her about Sarah's death, how he'd held his newborn son for 3 hours before the baby stopped breathing, how he'd buried them both under cottonwoods by the creek and sworn never to love again because the pain was too much. "But pain means you loved deeply," Mercy said softly. "And love like that doesn't diminish just because you find it again. It grows. You can honor Sarah's memory and still live, Isaiah. She wouldn't want you to be alone forever. How'd you get so wise?" "Losing my mother taught me that life's too short to waste on fear." She threaded her fingers through his. "My stepfather spent years being bitter about her death. It ate him alive until he became the kind of man who'd gamble away his daughter. I won't live like that. I choose hope. I choose building something new, even with a scarred-up half-breed who talks to horses, especially with him." They married a week later. The ceremony was simple, just them and a circuit preacher passing through Copper Ridge. Mercy wore her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit, and Isaiah produced a ring that had belonged to his Cheyenne grandmother. They spoke their vows under cottonwood trees, the same ones where Sarah and the baby were buried. "I promise to see you," Isaiah said, his voice steady, "not as property, but as a person, as my partner, my equal. I promise to build a life with you," Mercy replied, "to gentle the wild things, including your heart, to choose us every day. Together." "Together," he echoed, and kissed her as his wife. Their wedding night was tender and slow. Isaiah was careful with her, asking permission with every touch, making sure she felt safe. When he finally made love to her, it was with a reverence that brought tears to her eyes. "I see a woman worth saving," he whispered against her hair afterward. "Worth everything." "You didn't save me," she corrected, tracing the scar on his face. "You gave me the tools to save myself." "That's better." The months that followed were hard work, but joyful. Mercy proved as talented with horses as Isaiah, developing her own technique for gentling even the most fractious animals. They built their herd's reputation, sold trained horses to ranchers across 3 territories. Isaiah taught her to track, to read signs in broken grass and bent branches. She taught him to laugh again, to find joy in small things: wildflowers in a jar, fresh bread cooling, the sound of her singing while she worked. Winter came early that year. In November, a blizzard trapped them inside for 3 days. They made love by firelight, talked for hours, planned the children they might have. Isaiah took down Sarah's cradle and finished it, his hands sure on the wood. "For our future," he said simply. Sarah would want that. Christmas morning, Mercy woke to find Isaiah already up, stoking the fire. She wrapped a quilt around herself and went to him. "Merry Christmas, husband." "Merry Christmas, wife." He pulled her into his arms. "I have something for you." He led her to the window. Outside, in the corral, stood the black stallion, the one that had nearly killed Isaiah months ago. The horse was calm now, wearing a saddle with silver conchos that glittered in the snow-bright morning. "His name's Redemption," Isaiah said, "because that's what you gave me. That's what we gave each other. He's yours." Mercy couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. She turned in his arms and kissed him deeply. "I love you, Isaiah Crow. I love you, Mercy Crow, my wild rose, my partner, my everything." They stood at the window watching the sun rise over snow-covered peaks. 2 souls who'd found each other in the hardest of places and built something beautiful from the ruins of their pasts. 2 years later, when their daughter was born, strong and healthy and loud, they named her Sarah Hope, the first name to honor the woman who'd loved Isaiah first, the second to honor what Mercy had brought to his life. Isaiah cried when he held her, tears streaming down his scarred face. "She's perfect," he whispered. "You're both perfect." Mercy, exhausted but glowing, reached up to touch his face. "We're a family now, a real family, built on choice and love, not obligation." "The best kind of family," Isaiah agreed. They raised their children in Eagle Creek Valley, 3 in total, each one taught to ride before they could walk, to respect horses and land and people. Mercy's cooking became legendary, and cowboys would ride 3 days out of their way to taste her bear claws and apple pie. Isaiah's reputation grew until they had more business than they could handle, training horses for cavalry units, ranchers, and settlers heading west. But the heart of their success was each other. Every morning, Isaiah would find Mercy in the kitchen and pull her close. whispering, together, like a prayer. Every evening, she'd watch him work horses from the porch, marveling that this strong, gentle man was hers. Years later, when their grandchildren asked how they met, Mercy would smile and say, "Your grandfather won me as a prize in a cruel rodeo, but I rose as his bride, and he rose as mine. We saved each other." And Isaiah would add, "Best prize I ever won," though she'd argue she wasn't won at all. "Damn right I would," Mercy would say, and their grandchildren would giggle at Grandma cursing while Grandpa kissed her cheek, because that was the truth of it. Mercy hadn't been won. She'd been offered a choice, and she'd chosen love, chosen partnership, chosen a life built on mutual respect and fierce devotion. And that choice, made in a dusty rodeo town when she had nothing, had given her everything that mattered. The ranch still stands today, passed down through generations of crows. And if you listen carefully on quiet evenings, some say you can still hear Isaiah's voice on the wind, teaching his wild rose to gentle horses, and her laughter in response, bright and free as mountain streams, because love like that doesn't die. It echoes through time, a testament to two souls who found each other in the wildest of places, and proved that the best things in life aren't won. They're chosen, nurtured, and built together, one day at a time. Spring arrived with a fury of wildflowers and new colts. Mercy stood in the doorway of their bedroom, one hand pressed to her stomach, watching Isaiah work a young mare in the corral below. 3 months had passed since their wedding, and she'd been waiting for the right moment to tell him. But fear kept catching the words in her throat. Not fear of him, never that. Fear of what pregnancy might awaken, memories of Sarah, of the baby who'd lived only hours. Fear that her joy might become his nightmare. The mare stumbled, and Isaiah's hand shot out to steady her, his voice low and soothing. That gentleness decided Mercy. She deserved to know his strength, and he deserved to know hers. She walked to the corral, and he looked up immediately, as if sensing her approach. Sweat darkened his shirt despite the cool morning air. "Something wrong?" he asked, vaulting the fence with easy grace. "No, something's right." She took his hand and placed it on her stomach. "We're having a baby, Isaiah, in late autumn, I think." The color drained from his face. He swayed, and she gripped his arm to steady him. "Sit down," she commanded, leading him to the porch steps. "Breathe." "I can't." His voice broke. "Mercy, what if nothing?" She knelt before him, forcing him to meet her eyes. "I'm not Sarah. My mother bore 6 children and lived to old age. The midwife in Copper Ridge says I'm strong and healthy. This isn't 5 years ago, Isaiah. This is now. This is us." His hands came up to frame her face, trembling. "I'm terrified." "So am I. But we're terrified together, remember? That's what makes us strong." She covered his hands with hers. "I need you to believe we can do this, that I can do this." Isaiah pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. Against her hair, he whispered, "I believe in you. I always have. It's fate I don't trust." "Then we'll make our own fate." She pulled back to look at him. "Starting now. We're going to prepare. We're going to be smart. And in 6 months, we're going to welcome our child into a house full of love. Agreed?" "Agreed." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "I love you, Wild Rose, more than I thought possible." "I love you too, scarred warrior. Now help me up. Your child is already making me queasy, and I need to finish breakfast. The pregnancy was not easy. Morning sickness lasted well into the 4th month. Mercy's back ached. Her ankles swelled, and by midsummer, she was so uncomfortable she wanted to scream. But Isaiah was there for every moment, rubbing her feet in the evenings, making ginger tea at dawn, taking over the heavier chores without being asked. "You don't have to coddle me," she protested, one afternoon watching him haul water she normally would have carried. "I'm not coddling. I'm partnering." He set down the buckets and kissed her soundly. "You're growing a person inside you. Least I can do is carry some water." But the real test came in August, when Viper Jack showed up at their ranch. Mercy was in the garden, basket in hand, when she heard the horse approach. She looked up and felt ice slide down her spine. Viper Jack sat astride a rangy paint, his smile as cruel as she remembered. "Well, well," he drawled, eyes roaming over her swollen belly. "Looks like Crow got himself a good mare, breeding already." Mercy straightened, refusing to show fear. "You're not welcome here. Leave." "Not till I get what I'm owed." He dismounted, started walking toward her. "See, your stepfather died last month, drank himself to death. But before he went, he told me something interesting. Said Crow never legally completed the transaction. Said you're still rightfully mine, won in that rodeo fair and square." "That's a lie." "Is it?" He pulled a paper from his vest. "Got a judge in Copper Ridge who agrees with me. Says I got first claim. Now you can come peaceful," or the click of a hammer being pulled back stopped him mid-sentence. Isaiah stood 20 feet away, rifle leveled at Viper Jack's chest. His face was stone, but his eyes burned with deadly promise. "She's my wife," Isaiah said quietly. "Legal and proper, with papers filed in 3 territories. You touch her, you die. You speak to her again, you die. You stay on my land another 10 seconds, you die. Start counting." Viper Jack's hand moved toward his gun. "Don't." Mercy's voice rang out clear and sharp. She'd pulled her own pistol from her apron pocket, the one Isaiah had taught her to carry everywhere. "He'll shoot you in the heart. I shoot you somewhere lower. Your choice which happens first." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Viper Jack slowly raised his hands. "This ain't over, Crow." "Yes, it is." Isaiah's voice was arctic. "You come near my wife again, I won't just kill you. I'll make it last days. And every lawman in Wyoming knows my reputation. They'll call it defense of property and look the other way. Now get off my land." Viper Jack mounted and spurred his horse viciously, riding off in a cloud of dust and fury. Mercy's knees gave out the moment he was gone. Isaiah caught her before she hit the ground, gathering her against his chest. "I've got you," he murmured. "You're safe. He's gone." "Isaiah, what if he comes back? What if he hurts you to get to me?" Her hands fisted in his shirt. "What if—" "Stop." He pulled back to look at her, his expression fierce. "Listen to me, Mercy Crow. I have faced down Comanche war parties, cavalry charges, and bears defending cubs. One pathetic excuse for a man doesn't scare me. But you standing there with your pistol drawn, protecting yourself and our child, that's the bravest thing I've ever seen." I was terrified. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. Sarah taught me that. He helped her stand, kept his arm around her. "Come on, we're riding into Copper Ridge today. We're going to make sure every legal paper is filed, notarized, and sealed. And we're going to let the sheriff know Viper Jack made threats." They spent 3 days in town, ensuring their marriage was documented beyond any challenge. the sheriff, a grizzled veteran named Morrison, listened to their story and nodded grimly. Viper Jack's been causing trouble for years. Never enough to hang him, but enough to make decent folks nervous. You have any more problems, send word. I'll ride out with deputies. On their last night in town, Isaiah took Mercy to the hotel restaurant, a rare luxury. Over steak and potatoes, she noticed him watching her with an intensity that made her blush. "What?" she asked. "Just memorizing you. The way the lamplight catches your hair. The way you're glowing, even though you're exhausted. The way you face down a man twice your size with a pistol and pure courage." He reached across the table for her hand. "You're magnificent, Mercy. I need you to know that. I'm huge and uncomfortable, and I waddle like a duck. You're carrying our future. That makes you beautiful beyond words." He stood, came around the table, and knelt beside her chair. "When our child is born, I want to tell them about this day, about how their mother was the strongest person I've ever known." Tears spilled down Mercy's cheeks. These damned emotions. "I cry at everything now." Isaiah laughed and kissed her fingers. "Cry all you want, Wild Rose. I'll be here to catch every tear." They returned home to find the ranch undisturbed, but Isaiah wasn't taking chances. He taught Mercy advanced shooting positions, set up defensive positions around the property, and made sure she knew escape routes to the high country if needed. "You think he'll really come back?" she asked one evening as they sat on the porch. Men like Viper Jack don't let go of grudges, but men like him also don't expect resistance. We gave him that. Might be enough to make him look for easier targets. He pulled her close, rested his hand on her belly. "But either way, we're ready." The baby kicked, and Isaiah's face transformed with wonder. "Strong," he whispered, "like their mama. Or stubborn like their papa." As summer faded into autumn, Mercy grew larger and more uncomfortable, but also more confident. The midwife, Mrs. Chen, a formidable Chinese woman who delivered half the babies in 3 territories, came to stay 2 weeks before the due date. "First babies like to surprise," she said briskly, setting up her supplies in the spare room. "Better I'm here early than you birth alone." Isaiah looked green at the thought. "Men," Mrs. Chen muttered. "You break horses but can't handle baby talk. Go, work. I teach your wife what she needs to know." For the next 2 weeks, Mrs. Chen was a stern but kind teacher. She showed Mercy breathing techniques, positions for labor, signs of trouble to watch for. She also told stories. Some funny, some sad, all instructive. "Your man," Mrs. Chen said one afternoon, as they prepared bandages. "He loves you very much, but he's scared." "I know, his first wife." "Died in childbirth. Yes, I delivered that baby. Tried to save them both." Her weathered face was somber. "But her pelvis was too narrow, baby too big. She labored 3 days before she died. Nothing I could do." Mercy's hand went to her stomach protectively. "You are different," Mrs. Chen said. Chen said firmly, "I check you. Your hips are wide, baby positioned perfect. You are strong. You will survive this. But your man needs to hear it from me, not just you." That evening, Mrs. Chen called Isaiah into the kitchen and spoke to him in Mandarin, which he apparently understood from his trading days. Mercy watched his face cycle through fear, hope, and finally tentative relief. "She says you're built for this," he told Mercy later, holding her in bed. "That everything looks good. That I need to trust in your strength, not live in past tragedy." "She's right. I know. But knowing and believing are different things." He kissed her temple. "I'm trying, Mercy. God, I'm trying. That's all I need, your effort. Your presence. Together, remember? Together, he echoed. 3 days later, Mercy's water broke while she was feeding the chickens. She stood in the doorway of the coop, watching the fluid pool around her feet, and felt strangely calm. "Isaiah," she called, "it's time." He appeared from the barn at a dead run, skidded to a stop when he saw her. For a moment, his face was pure panic. Then he took a deep breath, visibly collected himself, and became the steady man she'd married. "All right, Mrs. Chen is in the house. Can you walk?" "I can run if I have to. It's just water, not the baby. Not yet." She took his offered arm, let him help her inside. Mrs. Chen took one look and nodded. "Early stages. We have time. Mr. Crow, you boil water, lots of it. Mrs. Crow, you walk. Movement helps baby descend." The next 20 hours were the longest of Mercy's life. The contractions started mild, but built in intensity until she was pacing the bedroom, gripping the bedpost, breathing through pain that felt like it would split her in half. Isaiah stayed with her the entire time, despite Mrs. Chen's suggestions that he leave. "I made a promise," he said stubbornly. "Together. That means I don't leave when things get hard." "You might change your mind when I start screaming," Mercy gasped between contractions. "Scream all you want. I've heard dying horses make worse sounds. You're tougher than any of them." She laughed despite the pain, then groaned as another contraction seized her. "Go slow," she panted. "This hurts so much." "I know, Wild Rose, but you're doing it. You're bringing our baby into the world." He wiped her face with a cool cloth. "You're the strongest person I know." As dawn light crept through the windows, Mrs. Chen examined Mercy and smiled for the first time. Fully dilated. "Time to push. Mr. Crow, support her shoulders. Mrs. Crow, with next contraction, push hard." What followed was primal and exhausting and more painful than Mercy could have imagined. She pushed until she thought she'd break apart, screamed until her throat was raw, clung to Isaiah's hands so hard she left bruises. But through it all, he was there, his voice in her ear telling her she was strong, she was brave, she could do this. "One more push," Mrs. Chen commanded. "Big one. Now." Mercy bore down with everything she had, and suddenly there was release and wetness and the most beautiful sound in the world, a baby's furious cry. "Girl," Mrs. Chen announced, holding up a squirming, red-faced infant. "Healthy girl with good lungs." Mercy collapsed back against Isaiah, sobbing with relief and joy. He was crying too, she realized, his tears falling into her hair as he held her. "You did it," he kept saying. "You did it, Mercy. She's here. She's alive. You're alive." Mrs. Chen cleaned the baby and placed her on Mercy's chest. The infant immediately quieted, her tiny fist curling around Mercy's finger. She had dark hair and Isaiah's gray eyes, and she was the most perfect thing Mercy had ever seen. "Sarah Hope," Mercy whispered. "Welcome to the world, little one." Isaiah touched his daughter's head with one gentle finger, his scarred face wet with tears. "She's perfect. You're perfect." "How did I get so lucky?" "We both got lucky," Mercy corrected. "We found each other when we needed it most, and now we have her." Mrs. Chen efficiently managed the afterbirth and got Mercy cleaned up and settled. Isaiah sat beside the bed, unable to take his eyes off his wife and daughter. "I was so afraid," he admitted quietly. "So certain I'd lose you both, that history would repeat. But it didn't. We made our own history, our own story." Mercy shifted Sarah so Isaiah could hold her. She needs her father. Isaiah took the baby with infinite care, cradling her like she might break. Sarah yawned, and settled against his chest, utterly content. "Hello, little warrior," he murmured. "I'm your papa, and that's your mama, the strongest woman in 3 territories. You come from strong women. My mama, your mama, and Sarah, who you're named for. You carry all their strength in you." Mercy watched husband and daughter together and felt something settle in her chest. Peace, wholeness. They'd built this, not from tragedy, but through it. They'd chosen each other, chosen hope, chosen to believe in a future when the past wanted to destroy them. "I love you," she told Isaiah. "Both of you, my whole heart." He looked up, eyes shining. "And I love you, more than I have words for. You gave me back my life, Mercy. You gave me everything that matters." Outside, the autumn wind sang through the cottonwoods. Horses whickered in the corrals. The ranch went on as it always had. But inside that sturdy log house, everything had changed. A family had been born. Not just a baby, but a unit, forged through courage and choice and unwavering love. Mrs. Chen stayed another week, teaching Mercy to nurse and care for the infant. Sarah proved to be an easy baby, alert and curious, crying only when hungry or wet. Isaiah was a revelation as a father. He'd wake for night feedings, walk Sarah around the house singing Cheyenne lullabies, change diapers without complaint. "You're a natural," Mercy told him, watching him soothe a fussy Sarah one evening. "I'm terrified every moment that I'll do something wrong." But his hands were steady on his daughter, his voice calm. "But she's worth the fear. You both are." 1 month after Sarah's birth, Viper Jack made his final mistake. He came at night, drunk and angry, with 2 friends. They rode up to the house, shouting challenges, firing guns in the air. Isaiah handed Sarah to Mercy. "Take her to the root cellar. Lock yourselves in. Don't come out until I call you." "Isaiah, now, Mercy, please." His face was granite. "Protect our daughter. That's what matters." Mercy ran, Sarah wrapped in blankets, and huddled in the root cellar with her pistol drawn. Above, she heard shouts, gunfire, the crash of breaking glass. It lasted only minutes, but felt like hours. Then, silence. "Mercy, it's safe." She emerged to find Isaiah standing in the yard with Sheriff Morrison and 3 deputies. Viper Jack and his friends were on the ground, disarmed and bound. "They made the mistake of underestimating you," Morrison said to Isaiah. "Again, this time there's enough witnesses and evidence to hang them. They won't bother you anymore." As the sheriff loaded the prisoners, Isaiah came to Mercy and Sarah. His knuckles were bloody, and there was a cut above his eye, but he was whole. "It's over," he said simply. "They're gone. We're safe." Mercy shifted Sarah to one arm and threw the other around Isaiah's neck. "No more threats. No more looking over our shoulders." "No more," he agreed. "Just us. Just our family. Just our future." They stood in the doorway as the sheriff's party rode away, Sarah sleeping between them. Above, stars wheeled in impossible brightness. The cottonwoods whispered. The ranch settled into peaceful night sounds. "Thank you," Mercy said quietly. "For what?" "For giving me a choice that day. For seeing me as a person, not property. For loving me and our daughter fiercely enough to face down demons, yours and mine." Isaiah kissed her softly. "You gave me back my life, taught me that surviving isn't the same as living. That love doesn't diminish when you find it again. It grows. You were won as a prize in a cruel rodeo, but you rose as my bride, my partner, my equal, my heart. And I will spend every day of my life being worthy of that gift." You already are, Mercy whispered. You already are. Sarah stirred and made a small sound. Both parents looked down at her, faces softening with wonder. This was what they'd fought for. This was what they'd built. Not a perfect life, but a real one. Not a life without scars, but one where scars became testaments to survival. The Wild West was harsh and unforgiving, but in Eagle Creek Valley, on a ranch built by two strong souls who chose each other, love had put down roots. Deep roots that would weather any storm, bear fruit in any season, and prove that sometimes the best things in life aren't won at all. They're chosen, nurtured, built together one sunrise at a time. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 3 years passed like water over river stones. Steady, shaping, transforming. Sarah Hope grew into a wild-haired toddler who followed her father everywhere, mimicking his walk, his gestures, even his way of talking to horses. Mercy had never seen Isaiah so completely undone by another person. The fearsome horse tamer melted into puddles when his daughter demanded, "Up, Papa," or presented him with fistfuls of wildflowers. But the ranch was struggling. 2 harsh winters had decimated their herd. Competing horse traders from California had flooded the market with cheaper, barely trained stock. And Isaiah's reputation, while sterling, couldn't compete with lower prices. They were 3 months behind on the bank loan Isaiah had taken to expand the corrals. Mercy found him in the barn one April evening, head in his hands, surrounded by ledgers that showed nothing but red ink. "We're going to lose it," he said without looking up. "Everything we built, the ranch, the house, I can't." His voice broke. "I can't provide for you and Sarah." What kind of man can't provide for his family? Mercy set down the lamp she carried and knelt beside him. The kind who's been carrying the weight alone instead of trusting his partner. "Show me the books." They spent 3 hours going over every expense, every asset, every possibility. The situation was dire, but not hopeless. They had 20 trained horses ready to sell, but no buyers. They had land, but couldn't sell it without losing everything. They had a reputation, but it only mattered if people could afford quality. "What if we went to them?" Mercy said suddenly. "The cavalry, the Pony Express. Big operations that need reliable horses and can pay premium prices. What if instead of waiting for buyers to come to us, we brought the horses to them?" Isaiah looked up, hope flickering in his storm-gray eyes. "That would mean traveling, weeks on the trail. You and Sarah would come with you. We're a family. We face things together, remember?" She gripped his hands. "Isaiah, I'm not some delicate flower who needs to stay home. I can ride, shoot, and handle horses as well as most men. Sarah can learn the trail, same as any child. We do this as a family or not at all. It's dangerous. Bandits, weather, river crossings. So is losing everything we've worked for. So is giving up without fighting." She cupped his face, made him look at her. "I didn't face down Viper Jack just to lose our home to a ledger. We're stronger than this, but only if we're together." Isaiah pulled her into his arms, holding tight. "How did I ever deserve you? You gave me a choice when no one else would. Now I'm choosing to fight for us, again." 2 weeks later, they set out with their best horses, a sturdy wagon, and Sarah perched proudly on her own pony, a gentle mare Isaiah had been training specifically for her. Mercy rode beside Isaiah, her rifle across her saddle, feeling more alive than she had in months. The trail was everything Isaiah had warned, and more. They crossed rivers swollen with snowmelt, navigated mountain passes barely wide enough for the wagon, and spent nights camped under stars so bright they seemed close enough to touch. Sarah treated it like the grandest adventure, learning to track rabbits, identify bird calls, and help her father with the horses. "She's got your gift," Mercy told Isaiah one evening, watching Sarah gentle a skittish colt with patience beyond her years. "The way she understands them." "She's got your courage," Isaiah replied, pulling Mercy close as they sat by the fire. "The way she faces everything without fear. She gets the best of both of us." "That she does, Wild Rose." They reached Fort Laramie after 3 weeks of hard travel. The cavalry commander, a grizzled colonel named Mackenzie, examined their horses with a critical eye. Isaiah stood silent, letting the animals speak for themselves. Finally, Mackenzie nodded. "Finest stock I've seen in 5 years. Your reputation doesn't lie, Crow. How much for the lot?" Isaiah named a price that would clear their debts and leave them with enough to rebuild. Mackenzie didn't blink. "Done, but I'll need more. 20 head by autumn, same quality. Can you deliver?" "We can," Mercy said, stepping forward. "The Crow Ranch guarantees every horse we sell. They'll be cavalry ready, with mountain and desert training. You won't find better." Mackenzie looked at her with surprise, then respect. "You his wife?" "His partner," Mercy corrected, "in business and life." "Lucky man." Mackenzie extended his hand, and Mercy shook it firmly. "You've got a contract, Mrs. Crow. 20 horses by September. I'll pay half now, half on delivery." They left Fort Laramie with money in their saddlebags and hope in their hearts. But the journey home tested them in ways they hadn't anticipated. 4 days from the fort, they encountered a family stranded by a broken wagon wheel. A young couple with 3 small children, all of them gaunt with hunger. The husband had been injured trying to fix the wheel, his leg badly broken. The wife was trying to hold everything together, but was clearly at her breaking point. Isaiah and Mercy exchanged a single look. No words needed. "We'll help," Isaiah said, dismounting. "Mercy, can you splint that leg? I'll fix the wagon." "What about getting home?" the woman asked, tears streaming. "We've already delayed you." "Home will wait," Mercy said firmly, already pulling medical supplies from their pack. People don't. They spent 3 days with the family, fixing the wagon, hunting to replenish their food supplies, and teaching the husband how to properly care for his injury. Sarah played with the children, sharing her toys and teaching them the songs Isaiah sang to her. When they finally parted ways, the young husband gripped Isaiah's hand. "I can't repay you. Don't need repayment. Just pass it forward. Help the next person who needs it." Isaiah glanced at Mercy, who was braiding the youngest child's hair. "That's how we build something better than what came before." But their kindness cost them. The delay put them behind schedule, and when they were 2 days from home, a late spring storm caught them in the high country. Snow fell in thick curtains, obscuring the trail. The temperature plummeted. Isaiah made the call to shelter in an abandoned trapper's cabin they'd passed on the way out. The cabin was barely standing, 3 walls and half a roof, with gaps wide enough to see through. But it was better than nothing. Isaiah and Mercy worked together, using their wagon canvas to patch the roof, building a fire in the broken hearth, settling the horses in a makeshift corral. Sarah, normally so brave, was frightened by the howling wind and the snow that seemed to come from every direction. She clung to Mercy, shivering despite being wrapped in every blanket they had. "Mama, Uncold, she whimpered. I know, sweetheart. Mercy held her close, but even she was shaking. The fire wasn't enough against the bitter cold seeping through the cabin's gaps. Isaiah looked at his wife and daughter and made a decision. He started stripping saddles and tack from the horses, bringing the animals right up to the cabin walls. Then he positioned the most docile ones partially inside, creating living windbreaks. The horses' body heat made an immediate difference. Old Cheyenne trick, he explained, settling beside Mercy and Sarah. Horses survived winters that killed men. Let them help us survive this one. They huddled together that night. All three of them pressed close with Sarah between them, the horses' warmth and the fire keeping hypothermia at bay. Isaiah told stories from his childhood, tales of winter camps and buffalo hunts, of his mother teaching him to read weather in animal behavior. Mercy sang hymns her mother had taught her, her voice soft and soothing. I'm not scared anymore, Mama, Sarah said drowsily. Papa and the horses will keep us safe. That's right, little warrior, Isaiah murmured, kissing her forehead. Nothing that's through us to hurt you. Nothing ever. The storm lasted 2 days. When it finally broke, they emerged to a world transformed, everything covered in pristine white, the air so clear it hurt to breathe. The horses were fine, Sarah was fine, and they'd used their last supplies, but they were alive, together, and stronger for having survived. They made it home on a brilliant spring day, when the valley was exploding with wildflowers. The cabin stood solid and welcoming, smoke rising from the chimney where Mrs. Chen had kept fires burning in their absence. You're back! The midwife bustled out, relief evident on her weathered face. I was beginning to worry. The snow in the high country was rough, Isaiah admitted, dismounting. But we made it. We always make it. That night, after Sarah was asleep and the horses were fed and settled, Isaiah and Mercy sat on their porch, watching stars emerge. The contract money was safely deposited, their debts were paid, and they had orders that would sustain them for years. We did it, Mercy said softly. We saved the ranch. We did more than that. Isaiah pulled her close. We proved that together we can face anything. Storms, bandits, financial ruin, doesn't matter. We're stronger than all of it. Together, Mercy echoed, the word that had become their anchor, their promise, their truth. Isaiah's hand moved to her stomach, where for the past week she'd been feeling the flutter of new life. She'd planned to tell him tonight, but somehow he already knew. When? He asked quietly. December, I think. Are you terrified? Yes. Excited? More than I can say. He turned her to face him. Sarah's birth taught me something. Fear is just love turned inside out. And I love you both so much that yes, I'm afraid. But I'm also ready. We know what we're doing now, and we have each other. Mercy kissed him deeply. We do. And this time, we'll have Sarah to help. She'll be the best big sister. That she will, Wild Rose. That she will. The following months were a golden time. Their reputation spread after the Fort Laramie delivery, and orders poured in. Isaiah hired 2 ranch hands, young men eager to learn from the legendary horse tamer. Mercy's pregnancy progressed smoothly, and she worked alongside Isaiah right up until her 8th month, when he finally put his foot down. You're training horses while 8 months pregnant with my child, he said, exasperated but amused. Even you have limits, Mercy. Fine, I'll supervise from the fence. She kissed his cheek. Stubborn man. Stubborn woman, he countered, but his eyes were soft. Sarah was fascinated by her mother's growing belly, constantly talking to her baby brother or sister, telling them about horses and stars and everything she was learning. One evening, she looked up at Mercy with serious gray eyes, so like Isaiah's it made Mercy's heart ache. "Will you love the new baby more than me?" she asked quietly. Mercy knelt, despite the difficulty, and took her daughter's small hands. "Hearts don't divide love, sweetheart. They multiply it. I loved your father. Then you came, and I loved you both. Not less of him, but more of everything. This baby will be the same. More love, not less. Understand?" Sarah nodded, satisfied. "Okay, then I'll love them lots too." In mid-December, during a gentle snowfall, Mercy gave birth to a son. The labor was faster this time, only 8 hours, and while Chen placed the squalling infant in his arms, his face transformed with wonder. "A son," he breathed. "Mercy, we have a son. What should we name him?" Mercy asked, exhausted but glowing. Isaiah looked down at the baby, then at Sarah, who was peeking around the doorway with wide eyes. "Thomas," he said, "after my Irish father. Thomas Hope Crow. Hope, because that's what we're built on." "Thomas Hope," Mercy repeated. "It's perfect." Sarah tiptoed in, climbed carefully onto the bed, and stared at her brother with intense fascination. "He's so small," she whispered. "You were once too," Isaiah told her, pulling her close with his free arm. "And now look at you, brave and strong and smart. You'll teach him everything you know." "I will," Sarah promised solemnly. "I'll teach him about horses and stars, and how Mama and Papa are the best in the whole world." Mercy laughed, tears streaming down her face, happy tears this time. "Come here, all of you, my whole family." They piled onto the bed, Isaiah, Sarah, baby Thomas, all of them tangled together in a mess of limbs and love. Through the window, snow fell softly, covering the valley in white. The horses in the corrals were settled for the night. The fire crackled in the hearth. And in that moment, everything was exactly as it should be. But life on the frontier never stayed peaceful for long. When Thomas was 6 months old, a delegation of Cheyenne arrived at the ranch. Isaiah went out to meet them, and Mercy watched from the porch, one hand on the rifle she always kept close. But Isaiah's body language was relaxed, welcoming. These were friends. The leader was a man about Isaiah's age, his face marked with warrior scars. He and Isaiah clasped forearms, spoke in rapid Cheyenne, then both looked toward the house. Isaiah beckoned Mercy forward. "Mercy, this is Running Wolf. We grew up together. Before." He gestured vaguely, indicating the complicated history between their peoples. "He needs our help." Running Wolf's English was broken but clear. "My daughter, 12 summers. She sees horses like your man sees them. Wants to learn. But our people, we are being moved to reservation, again. I want her to know another way, a better way." "You want her to stay with us?" Mercy asked. "To learn horse training?" "Not stay. Visit, learn, return to people with knowledge." Running Wolf's dark eyes were proud but desperate. "White world is coming. Our children need to know both ways to survive. You teach her horses. She teaches your children our ways. Trade, like the old times before the wars." Mercy looked at Isaiah, saw the conflict in his face. This was his past meeting his present, his two worlds colliding. She made the decision for both of them. "Yes," she said firmly. "Bring your daughter. She's welcome here as long as she wants to stay. And Running Wolf, you're welcome too, anytime. This is Isaiah's home, which means it's a home for his people. All his people." Running Wolf's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Respect. "Your woman has wisdom, brother. You chose well." "I know," Isaiah said simply. The next day, Running Wolf returned with his daughter, Little Star. She was thin and serious, with her father's warrior eyes and her mother's delicate features. She carried herself with dignity, despite obvious hunger and the patched clothes that barely kept out the cold. Sarah immediately claimed her as a friend, despite the language barrier. The two girls communicated through gestures and laughter. And within a week, they were inseparable. Little Star proved to have an extraordinary gift with horses, even more pronounced than Sarah's. She could read a horse's mood from across a corral, knew instinctively when to push and when to ease back. "She's remarkable," Isaiah told Running Wolf one evening. "In 5 years, she could be better than me." "Then teach her everything," Running Wolf said, "so she can teach others, so our people keep some of what we were, even as everything changes." But Little Star's presence brought complications. Not everyone in Copper Ridge approved of a savage living with white folks. Mercy and Isaiah began receiving hostile letters, lost some customers, even had the bankers suggest that perhaps they should reconsider their household arrangements. "Let them talk," Mercy said fiercely. "Little Star stays as long as she wants. Anyone who doesn't like it can take their business elsewhere." But the situation came to a head 2 months later, when Sarah and Little Star were in town with Mercy, buying supplies. A group of drunk cowboys started making comments, first about Little Star, then about Mercy when she defended the girl. "Indian lover," one sneered. "Bad enough, Crow's a half-breed. Now he's got you raising savages like their people." Mercy set down her packages, her voice cold and clear. "That savage can outride, outshoot, and outthink any of you. And if you have a problem with who stays in my house, you're welcome to take it up with my husband, or with me." She pulled back her coat, revealing the Colt at her hip. "Your choice." The cowboys backed down, muttering, but the damage was done. Sarah had seen her mother threatened. Little Star had seen the hatred firsthand. Both girls were quiet on the ride home. That night, after the children were asleep, Little Star came to find Mercy and Isaiah on the porch. Her young face was set with determination. "I go back to my people," she said in careful English. "I caused too much trouble for you." "No," Isaiah said firmly. "You're family now. Family doesn't leave because things get hard. But those men are cowards who fear what they don't understand," Mercy finished. "Little Star, listen to me. When I was your age, my mother taught me something important. She said, 'The measure of a person isn't how they treat those who can help them. It's how they treat those who can't.' Those cowboys revealed their measure today. Now you have to decide yours. Do you let their fear control your future? Or do you stay, learn, and become so skilled that they'll have no choice but to respect you?" Little Star's eyes filled with tears, the first emotion Mercy had seen her show. "My father says the world is changing, that I must change with it or disappear. But I don't know how to be both Cheyenne and this." She gestured at the ranch, the house, the life they represented. Isaiah knelt before her, his scarred face gentle. "You don't have to choose. I'm both Irish and Cheyenne, both warrior and rancher, both my father's son and my mother's son. You can be Cheyenne and a horse trainer, both proud of your people and learning new ways. The world wants us to be one thing or another, but we can be everything. That's what makes us strong." Little Star nodded slowly. "I stay, I learn, but someday I teach my people, so we survive." "That's the spirit," Mercy said, pulling the girl into a hug. "You're braver than those cowboys will ever be." The incident strengthened, rather than weakened, their resolve. Isaiah started teaching both girls everything. Not just horse training, but tracking, shooting, reading the land. Mercy taught them reading, writing, arithmetic, and how to run a business. Running Wolf visited monthly, bringing other Cheyenne who wanted to learn Isaiah's techniques, creating an informal trade network that benefited both communities. But the biggest change came when Mercy proposed something radical. "We should start a school," she said one evening, "right here on the ranch, for girls who want to learn horse training and business. White, Cheyenne, doesn't matter. We teach them skills that let them make their own way in the world." Isaiah, "We build something bigger than just us." She leaned forward, passionate. "Isaiah, think about it. How many girls are trapped in situations like mine? Powerless, dependent, treated like property. We could teach them to be strong, to have choices, to build their own futures. It would be controversial. Good. The best things usually are." She took his hand. "You gave me a choice when no one else would. Let's give that gift to others. Together." Isaiah looked at his wife, this woman who'd been won as a prize and rose to be his equal, his partner, his inspiration, and felt his heart swell with love so fierce it hurt. "Together," he agreed. "Always together." They started small. A notice in the Copper Ridge newspaper, Crow Ranch School for Equestrian Arts. Girls aged 12 to 18, welcome regardless of background. Learn horse training, ranch management, and self-sufficiency. Room and board provided in exchange for work. The first applicant was a 16-year-old girl escaping an arranged marriage. The second was an orphan from Denver with nowhere else to go. The third was a rancher's daughter, whose father thought women belonged in kitchens, not corrals. Within 6 months, they had 8 students living in a newly built dormitory, learning from Isaiah and Mercy by day, doing homework by lamplight at night. Little Star proved to be an excellent teacher's assistant, helping translate for the occasional Cheyenne girl who joined. Sarah, now 5, treated the older girls like sisters, following them everywhere and absorbing everything like a sponge. And Thomas, toddling around on chubby legs, provided entertainment and perspective, reminding them all why they worked so hard. The school changed the ranch's dynamic completely. Suddenly, they weren't just training horses. They were training the next generation of independent women. The students worked hard, harder than most ranch hands, because they understood what was at stake. This wasn't just about horses. It was about freedom. One of their students, a quiet girl named Elena who'd run from her abusive stepfather, proved to have an extraordinary gift for breaking difficult horses. She was patient where others were harsh, understanding where others were frustrated. Isaiah took her under his wing, teaching her advanced techniques. "You're better than I was at your age," he told her one day. Elena looked up, surprised. "Really?" "Really. You have something special. The ability to see what a horse needs, not just what you want from it. That's rare. That's valuable." He paused. "When you're ready, I'll write you a recommendation. You could work for any operation in the West." Tears filled Elena's eyes. "No one's ever said I was good at anything before." "Then they were fools," Isaiah said simply. "But now you know. Don't let anyone tell you different." Watching this interaction from the porch, Mercy felt vindication and joy surge through her. This was why they'd started the school. These moments, this transformation, that night. Curled against Isaiah in bed, with snow falling softly outside, she whispered, "We're changing lives." "You're changing lives," he corrected. "This was your vision. I just helped build it. We built it together, like everything else." She kissed him softly. "I was won as a prize in a cruel rodeo, but I rose as your bride. And now we're helping other women rise too. That's legacy, Isaiah. That's what matters." He pulled her closer, his hand spanning her back. "I love you, Wild Rose. More today than yesterday. More tomorrow than today. And I love you, Scarred Warrior, my partner, my heart, my home." Outside, the ranch settled into winter quiet. In the dormitory, 8 girls slept safely, their futures brighter than they'd ever imagined. In the main house, 2 children dreamed of horses and adventures. And in the master bedroom, 2 souls who'd found each other against all odds held tight, knowing that what they'd built, this family, this school, this life, was worth every struggle. They'd been tested by poverty, violence, prejudice, and doubt. They'd faced down enemies, external and internal. They'd lost and won and grown and changed. But through it all, they'd remained what they'd been from the start. Partners, equals, 2 halves of one whole. One as a prize, yes, but risen as so much more. Risen as legends, as teachers, as parents, as love made manifest in the harsh beauty of the Wild West. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale from. Are you listening at home, during your commute, or perhaps while working? Please subscribe to the From Wild West channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Mercy and Isaiah's journey? Your feedback means the world to us.